Let's talk about what just happened at Spa. Because honestly, that wasn't just frustrating. It felt like we were robbed of a real Formula One race. You probably saw the same thing I did. Drivers all ready for a wet weather battle, engineers adjusting setups specifically for the rain, fans hyped for the chaos and drama that only a rainy race can deliver. And then, nothing. The FIA's decision-making that day left everyone, from Max Verstappen to the fans in the grandstands, scratching their heads and shaking their fists. Now look, nobody is saying safety isn't important. We get it. Spa has a heavy history when it comes to tragic incidents in the rain, and no one wants to see another one. But at the same time, this is Formula One, the absolute pinnacle of motorsport. These cars are engineered to handle extreme conditions. The drivers are trained to react, adapt, and push limits. But when the race director plays it way too safe, it feels like the essence of racing is being stripped away. The formation lap behind the safety car already felt like a red flag, pun intended. And then, straight into the pit lane, no green light, no real action, just a long, awkward delay. The teams had been prepared for this. Everyone expected rain. It wasn't a surprise. And sure, the rain got heavy at points. But there was that golden window, a full stretch of time when conditions were tough but manageable, and nothing happened. The FIA just waited and waited. Imagine the water being cleared, naturally by the cars driving behind the safety car. That's literally how this sport has always handled heavy rain. Let the cars create a dry line. Let the drivers figure out the grip levels. But instead, we got nearly 90 minutes of silence. You could feel the energy drain from the entire event. And what about the fans? Sitting there in the cold, soaking wet, watching cars parked in the garage. So now I want to ask you, if you were the race director at Spa, what would you have done differently? Would you have let them go out earlier to test the track? Or do you think the FIA made the right call by being ultra cautious? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know how you felt watching it all unfold. And hey, if you're the kind of fan who wants to see real racing, not just politics and delays, then you're in the right place. Subscribe to our channel and enable the notification bell. Your subscription is very important to us. Help us grow and reach our goal of $1,000. Subscribers. Every new subscriber fuels the energy we put into keeping you informed and heard. Ready for the next part? Because we're just getting started. If the chaotic delay wasn't enough, what really rubbed salt into the wound at Spa was how the FIA's decisions completely betrayed the team's preparation. Every team went into that weekend knowing rain was basically guaranteed for Sunday. That's not some unpredictable freak storm. It was in the forecast all week. And so, naturally, setups were built for those conditions. Teams tweaked their cars for maximum downforce, added more rear wing, made tire strategy adjustments, all to be ready for a proper wet race. Let's take Red Bull, for example. Verstappen didn't just casually show up expecting a sunny day. He and his crew made serious changes to the car, including an entirely different rear wing, all to match what they believed would be a wet, challenging Grand Prix. Max even took a new power unit, and that comes with a penalty. That's how committed they were to preparing for the expected conditions. But what did they get in return? A dry-ish start long after the worst of the rain had passed. No real racing in the wet. Their entire strategy? Useless. And it wasn't just Red Bull. Multiple teams were caught out. You could feel the frustration from the engineers, team principals, and especially the drivers. Max's own race engineer, Simon, admitted after the race that if they had known the FIA would wait for the rain to completely stop, they never would have gone with that setup. The result? Not only was the race neutered, but teams who took the risk and committed to the challenge got nothing for it. That's not how racing should work. The essence of motorsport is adapting to change, making bold calls, taking strategic risks, and being rewarded when they pay off. But in this case, the FIA's ultra-cautious approach neutralized all of it. They turned what should have been a thrilling strategic puzzle into a waiting game that nobody enjoyed. And here's where you come in. I want to know what you think about this. Should the FIA give teams more insight into how they'll approach these weather delays? Should there be a clearer rule book about how and when racing can start under rain conditions? Vote in the comments, yes or no. Should the FIA communicate better with teams about race day decisions? Also, if you believe teams deserve transparency, not surprises, then give this video a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Subscribe to Fast News F1 and hit that bell. We're on a mission to hit 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you makes that possible. All right, coming up next, we need to talk about the tires, because all that strategy means nothing if the tires themselves aren't being used right. Let's talk tires, because all this chaos at Spa wouldn't be complete without the most ironic twist. The fact that in a race dominated by rain, we barely saw the one tire that was actually designed for it. You know what I'm talking about, the full wet, the blue striped tire that's supposed to be the hero in heavy rain. And yet somehow it's become the most ignored tool in the F1 arsenal. Now think about that for a second. Formula One has spent millions developing these full wet tires. Tires that are engineered to disperse water at high speeds, to give grip when the track is borderline undrivable. And yet, teams and the FIA seem to treat them like decorations. They sit in the garage, they gather dust, and even when there's a literal downpour, we still don't see them getting used properly. Instead, everything gets delayed. The FIA waits for the perfect moment when the rain eases up just enough to run intermediates, and then we get a watered-down, pun fully intended, version of what the race should have been. But here's the thing. The problem at Spa wasn't even grip. Drivers like Max said it clearly. Visibility was the real issue. The cars can stay on track. The tires can clear water. But if they can't see, the FIA panics. That's where things get tricky, because visibility isn't entirely solved by waiting. Sometimes it improves faster if the cars are actually moving, clearing water with their wake. That's been the strategy in the past. Let them follow the safety car, lay down a dry line, and gradually get going. Instead, we sat around waiting for perfection. And by the time we got it, the moment had passed. The wet tires, once again, didn't get their moment to shine. It's honestly a waste. If the wet tires aren't trusted, then why do they even exist? Why should teams bother planning around them if race control won't even try them out when it matters? There needs to be a real conversation about their purpose. Because in theory, they're an incredible piece of racing tech. In practice, they're a backup plan that no one really wants to use. Let me ask you this. Should the FIA mandate a minimum number of laps behind the safety car on full wets when conditions are bad, just to properly test the track before delaying the race? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm really curious how you would solve this. And if you want to stay in the loop as F1 hopefully figures this out, make sure to subscribe to Fast News F1. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. We're building a tight community here, and your voice genuinely matters. Next up, we've got to talk about something even bigger. Could Spa actually be dropped from the calendar because of all this? Now here's the part that really stings. Not just for the teams, not just for the drivers, but for us fans. What if all this drama isn't just a one-off? What if the way the FIA handled Spa this year becomes the final nail in the coffin for one of Formula One's most legendary tracks? Because whether we like it or not, the future of Spa-Francorchamps is looking shaky. Let's be honest, Spa has always had a complicated relationship with F1 politics. It's an old-school circuit with unpredictable weather, limited infrastructure compared to the newer, flashier venues, and it doesn't always bring in the biggest commercial backing. That puts pressure on the organizers every single year to prove their value. And with how the FIA managed this race, They might have handed critics the perfect excuse to push Spa off the calendar. Just think about it. After more than an hour and a half of delays, a race that didn't deliver, and widespread backlash, the headlines basically wrote themselves. Too dangerous, too unpredictable, not worth the risk. But here's the problem. That's what makes Spa special. This is where drivers earn their stripes. This is where weather becomes a strategy. This is where you find out who's got guts and who doesn't. Losing Spa would be more than just dropping a race. It would be cutting out a piece of Formula One's identity. This track has hosted unforgettable moments, title deciders, last lap chaos, legendary overtakes. If that disappears because we can't figure out how to race in the rain anymore, then we're losing more than just a venue. We're losing what makes this sport feel real. Let me ask you straight, would it break your heart if Spa disappeared from the F1 calendar? Be honest in the comments, because this one hits deep. I know there are plenty of you who see Spa as sacred ground, and I'm right there with you. And if you believe iconic tracks like this should be protected, not pushed out, hit the like button right now. Also, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, and if you love real conversations about the heart of F1, this is the place to be. Now let's wrap it up with one final point. When drivers like Max and Lewis are calling out the FIA, is anyone actually listening? You know what's maybe the most frustrating part of all this? The drivers, the ones actually putting their lives on the line, weren't even given a voice. No real dialogue. No chance to test the track behind the safety car and give feedback. The FIA made the decision from above, and that was it. Done. Final. And when some of the greatest drivers of this generation speak up about it, it's not just complaining, it's a warning sign. Max Verstappen said it best. They are way too cautious. He wasn't calling for chaos. He wasn't ignoring the risks. He was pointing out that this is still a racing series, not a waiting room. The fact that he had to switch his rear wing, change his setup, and still sit in the garage during the best racing window of the day, it says everything. And he's not alone. Hamilton, Alonso, they've all expressed frustration with how overly safe things have become, especially in wet conditions. And that brings us to the bigger question. Is the FIA actually listening, or are they just trying to protect themselves from criticism at the cost of real competition? Because if you're not hearing the drivers, the world champions, the rain masters, the ones who know exactly where the limit is, then who are you actually protecting? And what message are you sending to the next generation of racers? Nobody's saying we need to race through a monsoon, but when the track is borderline, when conditions are changing and the tires exist to handle it, why not at least let the drivers try? Let them form up, do a few laps behind the safety car, give their feedback, and then decide. That's how trust is built. That's how safety becomes a partnership, not a dictatorship. And here's something else that's been eating at fans. The sport now feels like it's becoming afraid of its own identity. Rain used to be the great equalizer. It made legends out of underdogs. Now it just stops everything. The FIA has to recognize that this is a dangerous sport by nature, and the drivers know that better than anyone. They choose this life. They train for these moments. At the very least, they deserve to be heard before the lights go out, or don't. So what's the fix? Well, first, the tires. We need better wet tires, not intermediates, actual functional full wets that teams can trust to perform. And second, we need a race control system that doesn't panic, that communicates clearly with the teams. That involves the drivers. Because this isn't a video game, it's real life, and these drivers want to race. And now I want to hear from you. Should the FIA give drivers more control in extreme weather situations? Yes or no? Let's get a discussion going in the comments. And if you're still here, I just want to say thank you. For real. Your time and passion keep this channel alive. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. We're building a place where real fans have a real voice, and we'd love to have you with us.